So the Eagles got an injury update that we really didn't want to see, as DeVonta Smith missed another practice ahead of the Bears game, but there is some optimism. However, Chicago is also dealing with a slew of injuries that could affect the outcome, and that's not to mention some crazy weather expected for Friday. In this video, I'll get you caught up on all that, plus go over the best picks and plays for the game. Meanwhile, Philly looks like they are finally ready to try something different in the ground game, and it's about time, so let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? The good news is the Eagles are going to be forced to make some changes against the Bears this week, and I'm cautiously optimistic about them. Plus, with it being a Black Friday game, what better way to celebrate than the birds back in black? I know, the Kelly Greens shockingly didn't work last week, but I'm hopeful the new kits will this week. So tell you what, drop a like on this video and then let me know who your first touchdown scorer will be in the game on Friday, because if you get it right and the Eagles win, I'm going to give away 2 tickets to any game of your choice to 1 lucky subscriber. Again, I do this every week, but just another reason to subscribe because it's free, doesn't cost you a thing, and every time the Eagles win, I'm giving away tickets this season. So go ahead and type that name in the comments and then come hang out during the game stream Friday as we cheer on the birds. Not gonna lie, last week against Dallas, I thought the offense had finally figured something out and come together. And I mean, Kevin Patullo did for a quarter and a half. It's just that after the scripted plays ran out, the Eagles offense went nowhere and led to one of the worst letdowns in franchise history. Yeah, appreciate that one, Kev.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
We're moving on, though, and honestly, I'm glad that it's a short week because hopefully, and I say hopefully here, but the Eagles can get that bad taste out of their mouth. Although you are right, 12 weeks into the season, not much has changed, and we're kind of talking about the same issues.
They're not running the football effectively because the offensive player of the year that ran for 2,005 yards last year, is nowhere to be found this year, okay? And it doesn't, I take no joy in calling out Saquon Barkley, but it's necessary in this particular situation. Love him as a person, love him as a talent, as a player. He's great. He has not been great this year.
From a bigger point of view, nothing takes precedent over finding ways to win. And so that's the most important thing. And we've been able to win games in different ways. And so we've just got to settle in an identity. The identity needs to be something everybody's in alignment in. So it's not a matter of how it looks. I don't care how it looks. I don't care who does it. I just like for it to get done.
This is legit make or break week. I mean, there's so many issues, so many concerns, but how about just speeding up the operation? Since we actually did see that work the second time Philly played the Giants. AKA when they won 38-20 and, we got to enjoy a blowout for once. However, outside of that, Philly's average time remaining on the play clock at the snap is 7.5 seconds, with the only other team with a lower average being the Miami Dolphins. Of course, this isn't just a Patullo thing. That stat is a Nick Sirianni one, since those numbers have gotten worse and worse just about every single year that Sirianni's been at the helm. By the way, the difference is that last year, at least Kellen Moore implemented a lot more pre-snap motion and disguises, so there's somewhat of a reason to snap it so late, which is also the same reason the Dolphins get a pass since they're shifting and motioning all over the place before the snap. Whereas the Eagles, on the other hand, are a bottom 5 team when it comes to shifts and motions, with Brett Coleman describing it as an inexcusable static offense that takes forever to snap the dang ball. It's no wonder just about every analyst refers to Patullo's offense as rudimentary and elementary. I mean, Sirianni's scheme with Kevin sequencing doesn't help define quick reads for the quarterback, nor does it get receivers open.
I think we're getting scammed by a kindergarten.
All jokes aside, I do see what happened in Dallas as being a good thing to finally get this coaching staff to look itself in the mirror, make some changes, just try something. Also, more optimism from John Todd, but over the last 40 seasons, teams to play on short rest after losing a game in which they held a 21-plus point lead are 5-1. And the last such team to do so was the 2023 Bears, who won 40-20 at Washington 4 days after blowing a 21-point lead to Denver, which I'm going to take as a positive sign. Anyway, the weather forecast may not be positive, and will certainly play a factor, with it calling for a lot of wind to potentially impact the passing game. Yeah, the temperatures are saying 44 around kickoff, but thanks to 18 to 20 mile per hour winds with gusts up to 40, the real feel is close to freezing. So bundle up if you're going to be going there, and also, like we've been saying for the entire season, if there was ever a game to get the running game going, this is another one. 1, because the Bears are allowing the 3rd worst yards per carry in the league, and 2, they give up one of the most explosive rates of plays on the ground. Just saying, the Steelers had Mason Rudolph at quarterback last week and still managed to rack up 186 yards on the ground with Chicago knowing what was coming. Granted, with Philly's offensive line proving to be one of the worst in the league this year, especially when it comes to the ground game, that may be too much to ask. Yet in the spirit of trying something new, Anthony made a great point to go empty and use Jalen Hurts. Heck, QB1 has only had 16 rushes that weren't via the tush push this year. Small sample size, sure, but he's picking up 6 yards per carry when he does that. Personally, I don't care what it looks like or how it gets done, but if it makes Saquon's life easier or it can possibly make his life easier, then absolutely do it. I mean, it does appear that KP's reached the point of trying anything that it takes to improve that category.
We're trying pretty much anything and everything we can to find ways to get him going. I know, that the guys are excited for something new this week to kind of see if we can get it going. And really, it's just a challenge upon us. Right? When we go into the game, we have a certain plan, and if we have to adjust, we will. And I know everybody's eager to move on, and especially with a short week, it's good to kind of get this thing going and try to get the run game going because we know it's an important piece of the offense. And we know it's not going to be like last year. We just got to find our way this year and really work through it.
Look, I appreciate anything that they can do to get Saquon going, but it's also way past due to give Tank Bigsby some more carries. And with Barkley on the injury report again this week due to a groin injury, how about we give the dude with fresh legs a chance? Remember, Bigsby has 18 carries for 164 yards on the season. And as much as I hate to say it, I agree with those of you who are saying Bigsby is just playing better right now. Not to mention the matchup against the Bears' run defense is about as advantageous as you could want, because they're allowing over 138 yards a game on the ground. And now they're actually going to be incredibly thin at linebacker, with Jimmy Kempski noting Chicago will likely be without both starting linebackers in Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. And then backup Noah Sewell didn't practice earlier in the week, giving him a very doubtful status for Friday, along with Ruben Hippolyte starting against the Steelers last week but leaving with a shoulder injury, and he also has not practiced earlier in the week. Which means technically, if you're going based off the depth chart, the Bears could realistically be starting their LB4 and their LB6 for this game. So again, it's the running game, the offensive identity, all that, yeah, but the Birds have no excuse not to find it this week. Of course, Chicago knows that too and are definitely keying on Saquon Barkley.
Every time he touches the ball, he's a threat to go all the way. And that's really kind of how that game played out. I thought we did a pretty good job on him for a majority of the game. He hit one crease, and I think it was 66 yards or something like that, but that was kind of how that game played out. It was a back and forth game, and they are an explosive offense. They have explosive players. And guys that can, really hurt you both in the passing game and in the running game. And so, it's going to take, every play you got to be on your P's and Q's because if you're not, they can take advantage of it.
All right, I've seen a couple comments about Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator you saw there. Previously, the last time the Eagles played him, they only put up 15 points in New Orleans, the strange, wild win early in the season, but it's a little bit different. Because the Bears just have a different weakness on defense that I'm not sure Chicago can mask. Heck, there's a reason the Eagles are favored by 7. And call me crazy, but I might actually take the Birds to win and cover this week. Seriously, Chicago's done well to be at 8-3, but they also have a lot to prove. I mean, when you look at the last 6 starting quarterbacks they've faced, it hasn't exactly been the most stellar lineup. You got Pittsburgh's Mason Rudolph, Minnesota's J.J. McCarthy, New York Giants' Jackson Dart, Cincinnati's Joe Flacco, Baltimore's Tyler Huntley, and the New Orleans Saints' Spencer Rattler. Just saying, it's a little easier to feast as a defense when you're going up against those guys for a lineup, but also speaking of that, Underdog has some insane promos that you can certainly feast on this week. And as one of the season-long sponsors, you can get $100 in bonus funds when you play $5 and get additional gimme picks. All you got to do is scan the QR code up on your top right there, click the link in the description, and use code PhillySpecial. Plus, right now is Feast Week, meaning you'll get all kinds of unreal bonuses and payouts every single day this week, so what are you waiting for? Last week, we started out so nicely, but then also, like the Eagles, we faded as Patullo's offense did. This week, we're going to try something big. This may be crazy, but just stick with me here. First, let's roll with a Tank Bigsby anytime touchdown. Like I say, know it's crazy, but I shared the reasonings earlier in this video. It's time to get Bigsby involved. Next, I'll take Dallas Goedert to have higher than 3 receptions. Shout out to Jimmy Kempski, but the Bears are allowing 6.5 receptions to opposing tight ends this year, which is, I think, the 4th most in the league. So Dallas Goedert, 3.5 receptions there. I'm going to take the higher. Plus, CJ Gardner Johnson's also covering Goddard, and that's a huge mismatch. All right, after that, I'm praying the Birds use more of Jaelan on the ground, so give me the higher 7.5 rushing attempts. And finally, I've got to take an opposing player, so I'll take Caleb Williams to run for more than 22 rushing yards. So there you go. Tank Bigsby, anytime touchdown. Goddard higher than 3 catches. Hurts higher than 7 rushing attempts. Remember, victory formations count 2. And Caleb Williams with at least 23 rushing yards. It's a 40x play, so small unit size, but just something to potentially pop with this offense. Or if you want something a little more certain and not quite as risky, then swap out Tank Bigsby with Saquon Barkley to have a longest rush higher than 16 yards. As always, good luck to you. Let me know what you think about those plays. And again, scan the QR code, top right, use code Philly Special, or click the link in the description.
Ben does a good job of mixing it up. They package things well together. They play multiple personnel groups. And, they're under center a good bit, probably more than most teams in this league. And kudos to him and his staff for bringing that young quarterback along who I don't think ever played under center in college. And he's doing a great job, and they have fought through any of the pitfalls of that. And now they got a quarterback that is executing their offense the way they want to.
Not sure if you realize this, the Eagles are 3-0 versus the NFC North, and the Bears are actually 3-0 versus the NFC East. Of course, Jalen Hurts and Sirianni have never lost to an NFC North team with QB1 starting, but this one's going to come down to Fangio's defensive mastermind versus Ben Johnson's mad scientist offense. And give him some credit, Caleb Williams has improved a ton from his rookie season. Although I did find this odd stat of Caleb Williams earlier for the Eagles game. For the Bears' record so far in 2025, when Williams completes better than 60% of his passes, the Bears are 1-3. But yet, when he completes fewer than 60% of his passes in a game, they're 7-0.
What does it mean?
Honestly, I don't know, because a lot of those outings, the vast majority of those outings where he threw over 60% were versus better defenses on their schedule. The only thing I can think of is that Caleb and Ben are hunting big plays, and the better teams limit those, better because they're better teams. So he's going to have to check it down more often.
Man, I tell you what, does it become an explosive play ever? Have you ever seen a tush push become an explosive play?
Does it become a first down or a touchdown?
Yeah, I like explosive play. I like big plays. So I'm not a big tush push guy myself.
Just lost a little bit of respect for Ben Johnson. But regardless, Fangio is going to have his hands full because Chicago has the 6th most explosive offense in the NFL, and the Eagles' defense has given up the 6th most amount of explosive plays. Now, thankfully, Reed Blankenship is playing this week for Philly, as will be Adoree Jackson. However, Adoree was the worst graded cornerback among 97 cornerbacks to play at least 10 snaps in Week 12. Yet if you want to go with Kelee Ringo, then he was the worst of all cornerbacks regardless of snap count.
How? How is that possible?
It's almost impressive, really. Anyway, I still think Fangio can mask some of those issues to hold serve, but the defense will have to make sure to not allow Williams to extend plays with his legs.
It's an added dimension to their offense. We've talked about how good their offense is, and now with him, there's going to be plays where you have to defend a second play that he's creating with his scrambling. He's high-level scrambler. And he's strong, he's fast, he's got good instincts when he's scrambling. It's tough.
There's danger on both sides, and Chicago could certainly walk away with a victory, but I think the biggest weakness is trying to hide Sidney Brown. Despite, yes, Brown and Fangio saying he's ready. Because even in limited action against Dallas last week, he was picked on almost immediately as soon as he came into the game. Still, injuries are going to happen to everyone, so that really can't be an excuse. The Birds just have to capitalize and get this thing figured out. Of course, that will get more difficult if DeVonta Smith can't play, which didn't look as good initially after Smitty missed Wednesday's practice due to a shoulder/chest injury. Although Anthony DiBona brought up a great point for a positive outlook for Smitty and all the other storylines and matchups to keep your eyes on Friday.
So it's weird because he obviously popped up with the shoulder/chest, and he was a DNP on Tuesday, and everybody was like, oh, what's going on? And then the reporters were at practice on Wednesday, and all the reports were, we don't even see DeVonta Smith. So that's like, oh, well, now everybody's like, okay, what's going on? But then the injury report came out. They added an illness onto that. So now it's shoulder/chest/illness, which is actually kind of a good thing. And I know this might sound crazy to say, but if you think about last week, he was a little bit late arriving to the game. He had to fly separately. He had something personal going on. Was he starting to feel the illness or something like that? And that's what kind of held him back. But now, obviously, we fast forward to this week. The illness pops up. But we have seen players, this season especially, that have popped up in the middle of the week on usually that second practice. In this case, it's on Wednesday, where he has the illness, and then players have been able to play after having that. Usually the next day, they're either limited or a full participant, and then they're good to go. So in my mind, what I think, and this could be doing too much, reading too much into it, but I think he was probably on schedule to be a limited participant today, but then the illness popped up. So hopefully he's going to be limited on Thursday, and then we can kind of go from there, but we'll see what happens.
That's what I'm hoping for. I tweeted it out as well. It's the optimism of seeing it. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but we need every bit of positive energy that we can get right now for the way that the Eagles are. So prayers for Smitty. Hopefully he's good. Other roster moves, though, and other injuries for the Eagles. What's that look like?
Yeah, so Drew Mukuba was placed on IR, and I feel like that was kind of a move that we all expected. But it's kind of interesting to see who replaced him on the 53-man roster, because I assumed that it was going to be Willie Lampkin, but it was actually Britton Covey, who is luckily he changed his number back to 18 for those that missed it. So he stole his old number back when John Mechie left. It was now available.
He needed it.
Xavier Gipson obviously had that rough fumble, and then he got injured. He's probably not going to play. I thought maybe he would be placed on IR, and then they would just utilize the practice squad elevations for Britton Covey, but they're just putting him right on the 53-man roster. So does that say something about DeVonta Smith's injury? I don't know, but I think it's more so just they need an answer at punt returner with Gibson down and after that fumble. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but I am excited to see Britton Covey back on the field.
There we go. Crash test, Covey. He's not fumbling as much. The 32% of Xavier Gipson, and we said this as well, but like not returning it from the 2-yard line. I think it's going to be fundamental returns, and it should be better. So I'm happy about that. It will be interesting to see him back out there after quite some time. Just kind of stashed him on the practice squad and not much of anything else. For Chicago, though, they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Latest updates there.
Yeah, so if you think of like the Eagles' secondary situation last week, that's kind of what the Bears are dealing with, but at linebacker, because they placed Tremaine Edmonds on IR. TJ Edwards and Noah Sewell are both still DMPs at practice, so who knows if they're going to play or not. So that's the top 3 linebackers on their depth chart. The 4th guy, whose name escapes me right now, but he's even banged up and not practicing right now, so who knows who's going to be out there at linebacker for the Bears, and maybe that's why they got ran all over last week, and they've been struggling against the run all season long, but in their secondary, they might be getting a couple guys back because Jaylon Johnson and Kyler Gordon were both full participants. Our old friend CJ Gardner Johnson may have actually spoiled that Jaylon Johnson will be activated from IR because
we saw
that he was speaking to the media and he's like, talking about how excited he is for Jaylon Johnson and how he's going to be active this week, which obviously hasn't been officially announced yet. But he said that he's going to be active this week and going to be put to the test against a good receiving corps in Philadelphia. So GJ might have messed up there, but we'll see what happens.
Well, it'll still be fun nonetheless, but it would have been nice if he was not playing. But then the other part of it, I believe it's Ruben Hippolyte. I could be misremembering, but yes, the linebacker. Take advantage of that. If we need any game, and I mentioned this earlier here in the video, obviously, but like there's so many guys out for linebacker, and it plays a huge factor, we know, in a bunch of other areas. But running game, Dallas Goedert, the Bears allow 6.5 receptions per game to tight ends. You don't have all your linebackers there, basically, and it could be CJ Gardner Johnson. You mentioned CJ Gardner Johnson. You know, he's not the greatest in coverage. Just saying, just putting that out there. So maybe Dallas Goedert. But there's a lot of matchups to be watching out for, as we normally do. Offense and defense. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so starting basically right off what you were just saying is going to be, can the Eagles establish the running game against the Bears? And obviously we've seen Philadelphia struggle. They haven't been able to do so consistently this year. Luckily enough, we mentioned how banged up Chicago is, especially at linebacker. But they also, even when they were healthier earlier this season, for the season, they're allowing the 5th most rushing yards per game. And the Steelers, who it's not like they have Barry Sanders or Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery back there, they ran for almost 200 yards against the Bears last week. So this could be, I know we say almost every week that it's a get-right game for the offense, but
eventually
I'm hoping
we'll
that
be right, I think.
with this matchup, hopefully with more Jalen Hurts involvement in the running game, maybe we'll see Tank Bigsby finally get the touches that he deserves. This could be the game where the rushing game really gets going for the Eagles. And then on the flip side of that, I mean, the passing offense too could have a big game, because if you look at the Bears, especially their defensive front, they don't have these, I know like they have Sweat and they have Javon Dexter, but these aren't the elite pass rushers that they face from other teams in recent weeks. And they have a bottom 5 pressure rate in the NFL, whether they're blitzing or they're not. So whether they are sending extra rushers, it's still not getting home and pressuring the quarterback. And they kind of rely on forcing turnovers. And that's the one thing, despite everything else that the Eagles are doing bad on offense this year, they're not turning the ball over. So if they're able to kind of take that away from the Bears defense and hold on to the ball, it seems like they'll be able to meticulously move their way down the field and eventually score.
We'll just put this out there. Like,
in case, Sirianni just happened to stumble across this video, or Kevin Patullo, don't play ultra conservative. That does not give you the license to be like, oh, let's just not turn the football over. We're going to win the game. Play aggressively. Please don't get up and then all of a sudden have the repeat of Dallas or even, we had against Denver as well, the comebacks. Play aggressively, take advantage. Defensive-wise, though, matchups there to keep an eye out for?
So I talked about the Eagles trying to establish the running game. The Bears have been able to establish the running game all season long. I mean, their running back duo of former Eagle DeAndre Swift and a local guy, Kyle Monangai, that's a two-headed monster that's really been giving teams fits this year, along with, and Vic Fangio talked about, like Caleb Williams' mobility and his ability to not only be able to run when he needs to, but also it's hard to just bring him down sometimes. He's kind of strong in the pocket, can shrug off defenders. So they average the second most rushing yards in the league behind the Bills at 142.3 rushing yards per game. So we've seen the Eagles try and kind of struggle at times to contain the run, where they're allowing 4-yard gains, 5-yard gains. Then all of a sudden it's a 20-yard rush. Like, they need to be able to limit Chicago on the ground. But there's another area that's also concerning that carries over from last week. And I talked about in my preview before the Cowboys game how bad the Eagles are defending play-action passes. And guess what? The Bears utilize a ton of play-action passes. That's kind of Ben Johnson's bread and butter. Caleb Williams never really played from under center before this year, but he's looked really comfortable doing so. And especially with Sidney Brown likely starting at safety, they like to utilize a lot of two tight ends with Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. So I'd expect Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams to really be trying to trick Sidney Brown, take advantage of his over-aggressiveness at times, and then trying to throw over the defense's head for bigger gains through the air.
Man, it's scary to begin with. Thankfully, Blankenship should be good to go. So that is a positive, but yeah, it's a terrifying prospect, quite honestly, even with Sidney Brown saying he's ready to go. He got about as much praise as you're going to get from Fangio, and that there's the belief that Sidney's been playing well. We'll see. Can he hold up? Can he hold up well enough? Can he not give up a score or touchdown? I'm curious. First touchdown score. We do these every week, but it's time for the predictions now. You go to the opposing team. You picked the opposing team last week for the touchdown score. It didn't actually hit, but Eagles, or are you going for Bears?
I'm sticking with the Eagles this time around. Maybe I learned my lesson. I'm going to go a little bit chalky, kind of follow your pattern. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. The Bears have been they've had some trouble against mobile quarterbacks this year. Just the most recent performance was Jackson Dart in Week 10, where he had 66 carries for 66 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So if I'm trying to talk up that Jalen Hurts is going to start being utilized as a runner more, I might as well pick him to get that first touchdown on the ground.
I like it. Okay, I can appreciate that. I'm going to say, I really wanted to say, Tank Bigsby, and I'm taking it as far as like just an anytime touchdown. I don't think that's going to happen because it may take a little bit more for him to get into the game. But it goes in line with the rushing attack and got to get everything involved. So I'm going to take Saquon. So one of us, the odds are, if the rushing attack is anything at all, one of us are going to be accurate, assuming the Eagles score first. But for everybody else, again, let us know your thoughts, your first touchdown score, because going to be giving away tickets, assuming the Eagles can win, because it's a big game and everything coming away from that side. But the question is, can they get it done? And what are we going with for score predictions?
Yeah, so it's a little scary because, like I said, a lot of the weaknesses or the things that Chicago's good at is kind of similar to that Dallas game last week. But I think being at home, the blackout, I think they understand the vibes need to be switched around in Philadelphia. So I wanted to take an even bigger kind of margin of victory for the Eagles, but I'm going to keep it a little bit closer. I have the Eagles winning 24-20 over the Bears on Black Friday.
Okay. Right. It's at least a win. It's way too close for me. It's way too close. But it's at least a win. And we'll kind of take that at this point. I'm gonna do something a little bit crazy here. I told you before when we were recording, before we recorded, that I was gonna go like maybe 28-17, somewhere around that frame. I'm gonna say 31, but I may bump it up a little bit more for the other. It's gonna be a higher scoring game than I think people expect. I'm gonna say 31-20. Eagles win by 11. They take care of business. We feel so much better because it's like, there we go. There's a 30-point game from the offense, and maybe keep it up for a little bit more than like a quarter. I'm not saying I'm not ready to say it's for a full game yet, but it's a little bit longer than what we've seen. So yes, 31-20. Eagles get it done. Hopefully, get back on track somewhat, and then got your extended little mini bye for the Chargers coming up next. So we'll see. As always, appreciate you guys. And seriously, to everyone else out there, Thanksgiving right around the corner. Happy Thanksgiving from us. Could not do what we do without you guys. Channel past 147,000 subscribers is absolutely nuts. We'll be on during the game streams for Black Friday. So if you're looking to stream or just hang out during the game, come check it out. And we'll see you on the next one. As always, go Birds.
Go Birds.
Like I should feel like I should go.